So good morning, welcome. This is always an interesting experience talking into headphones because I feel like you can't hear me, but I know that you can. So Stacy Pence, I'm here with Chad Lieberman, and we're part of Accenture's Salesforce financial services practice. And today we're here to talk to you what we're calling the post-digital world. So I was reflecting this morning as I walked in. A year ago, I presented at the pace of change that had happened within the financial services industry in the last 18 months. And that grew the demand for vertical solutions like Financial Services Cloud, like nCino, and some of the industry-specific solutions that have evolved to really help banks, wealth management companies, and insurance providers catch up with the other industries and actually get closer to those customer experiences that they were having over there. When I come in this morning, that expectation and that change has only accelerated. So persistent change, challenged assumptions, and disruption is really the new norm. And we expect that to continue to accelerate in the future. And digital is no longer a differentiator, it's really just table stakes. And it's what you're going to have to pay to play at this point. So that's why we're saying we're moving past the digital age and we're into this post-digital era where there's an expectation of combining your digital interactions and your human interactions to create these personalized experiences. So I kind of have a funny quote up here that says, the lightning speed of change, which no pun intended, and the technology is what's taking us past that digital age. So what does that mean? So the future of success and wealth requires navigation through complex and conflicting priorities. So our customers, they want us to provision personalized experiences, but they also want us to get the basics right. So if I gave you a new goal or a new need in a digital channel yesterday, and I call you the advisor today, and you don't have that information and you're not using that to interact with me, I'm disappointed because you've told me that I can interact with you in all these channels. I don't think there's any unfamiliarity here with just the loss of trust in this sector, from brand name to data. No one trusts us anymore. So how do we make sure that those moments that we do get to interact with our customers are relevant, are meaningful, and are insightful? And really making sure all of the data that's in the digital world is consolidated so I, the advisor, can actually give you a good experience with me and really build that trust. And the last question that all of this is doing is starting to question, what is the price of advice? So what is it worth? How much should I be paying for it? We're hearing all of this news right now that they're charging us fees for no advice. They gave us bad advice. So I really have to build on that trust piece. So what that's doing in the wealth space is it's giving us, in essence, 3 different models that are evolving. Digital wealth management, so self-service, self-directed, autonomous. This is really wealth just finally keeping up with retail banking and what retail banking offers you today. And then the second and the third are where we think there's a real sweet spot, because it's this hybrid advice model that says, I hear you, you want to do things on your own, you want to do things in a digital channel, but there are going to be points in time where I want to talk to someone. I want to look you in the eye and say, is this really the right thing I should do? I'm worried about this or I'm worried about that. Some of those sentiment things that technology can't pick up on its own. Last is the scaled alternate high worth. So that's, again, how do I keep these personal and tailored touches and experiences, but how do I also make them scale? So how can I actually, if you look at wealth advisors, I think they touch something around 20% of their book at any given time. There's 80% of their book that's not getting any interactions. So how do we flip that around and get to the 80% of the book as well, and then make sure the time we're spending preparing for that 20% is drastically reduced so I can talk to more of them? So evolving to keep up with demand for hybrid advice. So firms today are seeking to establish the right level of interaction, as I talked about. What you'll see here is, again, I forget which side it's on this side, is the autonomous advice, the traditional up on the top of your more dedicated advisor, and again, that zone of hybrid advice. So the robo-advice, your partially assisted, and your virtual advisor is, again, what we want to start to show how we can pull that together. So there's really 3 key things, though, that we think are challenging to actually making this happen. So one, I talked about delivering hybrid advice at scale. So how do you have the technology to actually make that happen? Secondly, how do you solve for legacy barriers of change? And I really see this as 2 barriers. One is the technology and infrastructure you have within your organization, because typically you still see very long time to market of new technology, new tools. And lastly, the personal culture change of that as well. So how do we get advisors, bankers, others comfortable with the fact that they do need to use these digital channels, they need to trust that data, and that is important in their job every day. Because I still see a shift of people not being comfortable that they actually need that data and they can still run their business the way they have in the past. And I can tell you between Royal Commission and compliance and automation, that's just really not going to be the way it is forward. And then how do you accelerate the transition to that platform? So how do we not make it 18 months to get our whole network on board to these new platforms? How do I get these smaller pieces out in their hands quicker? So those are going to be the keys to actually starting to enable this hybrid advice model. So now what we want to do is actually bring to life, so Chad is going to actually start to show us in Salesforce how we've started to think about enabling the hybrid advice.
Thank you, Stacy. Yeah, clients today are expecting digital experiences and to be able to interact through many different channels, mobile devices, computers, tablets, and be able to interact with your advisor or be able to perform many different self-service operations directly from their phone, from a community portal. And so what I wanted to do is show how we bring this to life and what's the art of the possible of using Salesforce's Financial Services Cloud and how we bring that to life. And so just to set the stage, we have a company called Quantum Wealth Management. And we have Mark, who is our advisor. He's a top producing advisor. He works with maybe 40 to 50 clients, is looking to grow his book of business with a really digital first strategy, right? And we also have our client who is Amelia, who is actually recently married, is actually saving up to go on a honeymoon to Fiji. That sounds pretty nice right now. Since she's recently married, she's looking to explore how to invest more, build her wealth, and we'll show some of the digital actions that Amelia can do on Salesforce and how that really translates to the advisor experience. If we can jump into the demo. So what we have here is our enhanced Customer 360 page. As you can see on the left-hand side, we have Amelia Johnson's customer profile card. A quick summary for the advisor to take a glance and see what are her assets under management. When's the last time I talked to her? Providing those key details right up front for Amelia, for the advisor Mark, to be able to get a quick glance of the client. We also have service requests around what cases they have, see if there's any issues that Mark can help her resolve, and really show the full financial account status and see how her accounts are performing, right? We can see what her portfolio summary is, even add some dashboards here to see how it's performing over time. We also have external accounts. It's important to see now with open banking, with account aggregation, where is Amelia's money, right? Where is it sitting? Is it not all in Quantum Wealth? It's got to be all in some bank accounts and other investments. And so it's great to have that full picture of who Amelia is as a customer, right? And built on top of the Financial Service Cloud platform, we've really tried to enhance it to be able to provide this view. You're able to see who Amelia's relationships are. Her husband, Noah, who she was recently married with, and take a look at some of her opportunities and customer details. What was really key to focus on is also some priorities around what we need to do with Amelia, right? Sometimes the advisor comes to and say, what's been going on with my customer, right? Like how are they performing? What things? Using historical data, you can create a next best conversation to be able to see that, okay, Amelia just created a goal or her account actually grew significantly. Maybe it's time to send her a note or send her an email or time to reach out. And so driving a next best conversation and giving that to your advisor to start engaging more with clients is super important. So what I want to show you here is an enhanced goals feature. The Salesforce standard FSC goals, we've enhanced it to more of a needs, wants, and wishes, a little bit easier visually to classify that. And so as we've talked that Amelia is just got married, she was trying to save up for this honeymoon for Fiji. And so she actually just now completed her goal, which is awesome, and is able to fund that through one of her accounts. So now that the goal is completed, I just received an email directly triggered to Amelia's Gmail account. And it says from Quantum, congratulations, you've just reached your goal. And it pulls in her account details. And it provides a link to the self-service community portal. and it's from Mark, the advisor, directly. So Mark does not have to do an absolute thing. It's triggered an automated message once the goal is funded. So once you click on the portal, it drives us to the community self-service site. And so Amelia is auto-logged in, and she can see some of the services that we offer, maybe help drive and upsell some more business, and then she can also review her dashboard. This is where she can see her account information, how her accounts are performing, and pull that directly from Salesforce itself. You can drill down into different accounts and really build this out to show how your client themselves are performing, and it's all accessible on mobile. So now that Amelia saw that her honeymoon to Fiji was funded 100%, that's awesome. Maybe we show a congratulations banner. She can go in and see her goal is now funded. So it's driving that engagement to the self-service portal so they can track. And now Amelia's now she's thinking ahead in the future a little bit, and she's looking to put a down payment on her house with Noah. So we can quickly go in and have Amelia, create a goal and self-manage her goals. And so I want to do a down payment, and I want to say it is something I want. I have initially about $20,000 to start with, and the down payment on the house is $60,000. You can provide what type of goal this is, and that it's not started, or maybe in progress, right? Because she has some money to throw towards it. And we can set the date to March 2020 in a year. I can, as Amelia, quickly create that goal from start to finish. And now it's shown here as I'm 33% towards my down payment on my house, which is super exciting. I can go back and actually see on Amelia's profile instantly that, one, she added a new goal for a down payment and it's something she wants. And two, a new opportunity was created. Should be. Yeah. So there it is. A new down payment was created in a needs analysis phase. And now Mark can log in and see his open opportunities and that there's a new opportunity. So that's how you're really creating this engagement and digital strategy and keep the advisor aware about what your customer is doing, right? And so now that Amelia has created her goal, we want to then book an appointment directly with my advisor. I don't have to call, I don't have to email. I can quickly go, I can see her calendar and block off certain times, and then I can actually create an appointment. So I want to set something up for today and say, which is a little aggressive, probably wouldn't do it for today, but since we're here today, let's do goal planning session. I want to know how I am going to meet my goal on my house. And so we'll set it up as a meeting and save it. So now that the goal was created successfully, or the event was created successfully, as Mark, I can go back in and I can see that this goal planning conversation was created directly on my calendar. And I could reach out or, if it doesn't work, reschedule. But now I can instantly see, and there's no callback, no back and forth or interaction, right? It just immediately will trigger an email message that someone scheduled a meeting with you. The other part of this is, okay, now Amelia she's seen her goal has been created. She's scheduled an appointment with her advisor. Now, since she's recently married, she wants to add a beneficiary on her account because Noah and her are married. So what we have enabled here is live chat or chat bot. So it's a virtual agent, and we click on the screen here, and it prompts you with the information, hello, Amelia, an agent's on the way. And it'll prompt you and say, okay, I'm Alroy, your chatbot, and what can we help you with today? And so Alroy is able to be programmed with different commands to be able to deposit money, add a beneficiary. So I click on add a beneficiary, and it'll certainly pull up all of the accounts that Amelia has directly from your financial account object. And so I want to choose this Amelia's checking account to add, and it pulls the relationships from FSC relationships. And so I can choose Noah. And now the chatbot has automatically added Noah to my checking account. And we've also actually provided a knowledge article so that they can read about what adding a beneficiary does. right? And is there anything else I can help you with? They can perform another action, or no, they can close the chatbot experience. And that's how this self-service portal has driving interactions, providing any channel via mobile, desktop, and allowing them to interact and provide many self-service operations to be able to let the customer complete things as they wish. We didn't interact one time with our advisor yet, but it is still very important on this hybrid model to interact with your advisor for detailed conversations.
And so all of this data is going back into Salesforce. So when I'm looking at the Customer 360, I can see that she went with the chatbot.
Yep.
I can see that she was online.
Yep.
And I can see that she's now scheduled an appointment.
That's correct.
So now, before I go to meet with her, I have all of this information available before I have that conversation.
Absolutely,
right?
Yeah. So now switching over to the advisor point of view. So Mark logs in for the day and he sees his productivity homepage, right? And what we have is, again, more of that next best conversation, but more at the whole book of business level, right? I can see that my company has created an email for me to send called the response to the Royal Commission report so that I can keep my clients informed. It's also automatically identified the clients that are in my portfolio who is time for an annual portfolio review. And it also shows my next best conversations with individual clients as well. I can take a look at my productivity center and see the events that were scheduled, the tasks that I have to do today, whose birthday is it, and maybe some of my referrals, right? And so before the advisor really has that conversation with their client, they actually want to enable and send a digital campaign. And what we have here is the new distributed marketing product, which enables you to send bulk personalized messages at scale. And what it is a connection between Salesforce FSE and Marketing Cloud. And so we can create a Salesforce campaign, and we can create an email template within Marketing Cloud and provide that for the advisors. And so we've created a campaign called Annual Portfolio Review, and you can preview the email template here. And so this is the generic template that's created, and the advisor can see what that message is all about and see what type of clients it's about, who it's targeted towards, how long this campaign's in progress. And I could go in and add individually my clients from a contact or a lead to this campaign. And I can send them bulk messages that are on target to my communication strategy. So we're moving more from a centralized marketing model to providing the users who own the relationships with the customers the ability to do mass personalized marketing. It's an extremely powerful tool.
So we've provided the content. We've used data to actually determine the appropriate content and message, but the advisor actually has the power to make the decision of whether it goes or not.
Yeah.
And they come across personalized. They don't come across as campaigns that feel like very marketing-ish.
Yeah, exactly.
I would say where we implemented this in the US, we saw an increase in numbers of meetings that were scheduled for like weeks out. It was one of the most highly adopted capabilities we deployed.
Absolutely. Advisors were able to engage with that bottom 20% of the book of business you're talking about that's never been reached out to, that feel like they might be lost, the ones that have probably the highest attrition rate of leaving and going somewhere else because they don't get that attention.
They don't have any connection to you as the advisor. But now there's this ability to build that loyalty, that trust, and that personalization with them.
Yeah. So I can go in and I've added, and actually it's automatically identified the clients here in my book of business that I need to send that annual portfolio review. I can bulk select all of the clients, or I can select a couple of clients individually that I want to send it to. And once I hit personalize, it'll open up that message email template from Marketing Cloud, and it'll actually pull the information from the individual record and show Amelia's name. And it also leaves space for an intro and conclusion. I can type in, great to see you at the World Tour, and let's chat soon. And once I save that, then that'll actually send the data to the Marketing Cloud, and it'll pull it back for that email preview. And you can do this at scale. I can do this for personalize every single message instantly. So I can personalize and do that across, if I want that message to be the same for every single message I'm sending.
If you filtered on individuals you met at World Tour, you could write that once.
Absolutely. So it really saves time and is really scalable. And so there's some other personalization settings. If you have a more formal relationship with Amelia, you can just use her first name. And also, we've built out some custom components to be able to, if the customer's supported by a financial team, or they have multiple email addresses, or they want to copy a family member or a team member, we can add that and save that. Once it's saved, we instantly approve it and send it into a Marketing Cloud journey. And it's not just a triggered email send. This is sending through the power of Marketing Cloud, which you can set up, advanced customer journeys. If they, end up clicking on the email or schedule a meeting, then we send up a follow-up email, right? So really, it's able to provide the power of Marketing Cloud into the hands of the advisor.
Right. So if you think about even like service agreements or annual portfolio reviews, sending reminder letters automatically, noticing the responses, noticing the lack of response, and being able to automate all that. So taking away the manual, having to look at your tasks and activities, right?
Yeah. Absolutely. So now that the advisor has done that for the day and they've already sent out easily their campaign that's driving more business, now they're looking at their calendar and they see that Amelia has scheduled a conversation for them to talk through the goals planning. So they can come back to the profile, see the different accounts, and we've seen that there's a new opportunity and a new goal created for the down payment on the house. So what we can do is start planning and financial planning ahead of the meeting and say, okay, look, we have certain external accounts available. We have our financial accounts, and start planning in advance for this session. And once we see that, okay, wow, we have a savings account with this amount of money, maybe we could start saying that, yeah, let's bring this money over and open up an investment account to be able to, one, bring in business for Quantum, two, help Amelia reach her goals for her down payment. And then three, so we'll start to take a look and utilize this new Goals Explorers tool that we've built for our advisors. So once we sit down with Amelia and have coffee, we can actually bring this out on mobile and say, okay, let's start doing some goals planning. I saw that you've created a new goal for down payment on the house. Let's actually move this from a want to a need, and let's move this to in progress. So you can drag and drop via mobile, and then start playing around with other goals. What's a top priority for you right now? What is the goals that are most interested to you? Discuss how we're going to fund those goals. And so once you click on next and provide this mobile experience, we can actually update. You know what? We think that we'll bring in another $10,000 from your savings account. And you know what? We think that your target values may be around $50,000 and can go through and save that. So we're trying to provide a place to have more meaningful conversations and different tools for the advisor to use to have that relationship with their client, right? And so, yeah, that's really kind of what we wanted to show about how we're creating this digital experience, how we're driving engagement for the customer to our site, building the hybrid experience between the digital from the advisor and how they're interacting with their advisor when in the moments that matter.
Right. So it's all about. We've now given the customer the opportunity to do a lot of the planning and needs assessment on their own. They don't have to call us. They don't have to schedule around our timeframes. They can do it at night. They can do it in the morning. Yep. They can come and go back. We've also consolidated that data. We've also been applying insights and analytics to it to help the advisor and the customer understand what might be the next best insight for them to think about, right? Like how do you need the house now, or are we looking at it in a year? Can we do a bigger trip beyond Fiji because maybe we don't need the house for a while? So it's really starting to take all of those interactions and consolidating them into one place to enable both the customer and the advisor. All right, so how do we actually make that happen, and what are kind of the key things, Chad, that we need to do that?
Yeah. So essentially, right, is the building blocks that we just talked about, right? It's how do you build that virtual interaction, that layer to interact through these digital channels, right? How do you provide advice through the self-service portal through essentially like using virtual agent, providing knowledge management? how do you have these self-service options and a differentiated experience that you're providing through exposing through your digital channels. And it's also too about bringing the relevant data and enriching the customer profile with all the interactions using next best conversation, Einstein discovery to determine whether anyone has last contacted this customer. It has been 2 months, well maybe there's a higher chance of attrition, so I need to reach out. So how do you actually use the data in your Salesforce environment to start predicting what we need to do next, right? And so that's really driving some of those key outcomes for growth, for keeping your customers, using the digital tools where necessary, and providing your agents and advisors with that data and your customers to be able to do things themselves.
Yeah. So one of the interesting things, so we've shown this today very much in Salesforce, we've used some analytics behind it, but in our tech vision of this post-digital age, one of the points that we call it the dark power. So it's distributed ledgers, artificial intelligence, augmented reality, and quantum computing that we really think will start to make this even different going forward. So how do you actually make the experience of defining those goals something that can be done in augmented reality and can be an experience for them there? Starting to play with models so they can start to look at, if I put more money here, what does that make it look like in 1, 2, 3 years out from now? How do you start to use quantum computing to help them better understand what is the best financial advice for them? And also for the advisor to help safeguard them of what are the different models that they should be looking for. Yeah. So I think this today is already starting to upstep us from where we were a year ago, but I think that's going to be the next piece of really differentiating the wealth experience.
Yeah.
So what should you do? If I can tell you, we've just got a couple minutes left and I know everyone wants to go to the keynote, so start thinking about those use cases and MVPs. I know that sounds very basic, but it is very true. What is something simple and light that you can get out in a very timely fashion? So not something that's going to take you 6, 12, or 18 months, something you can start to test in a couple of months. Align stakeholders to your test criteria and those expected outcomes. The other thing I see happen in companies all the time is we want to do something fast, but stakeholders are expecting something bigger than that. Let's get small things, let's be bought in, and let's get it out and let's trial it. Create that environment of test and learn. So don't be scared to deploy something that isn't perfect. Don't iterate on something to the point that you can't get it out into your environments. Learn from it, change it, and scale it. And then lastly, we monitor the results and plan for the next use case. So I can't tell you enough how much people think about ROI, but they don't actually set up a performance or a plan for them to actually baseline metrics or measure those metrics going forward. So with that, thank you for your time. We have a booth over here if you'd like to see the demo in more detail in the industry section. We're also going to do this again in level 5 in our wealth room upstairs on the 5th floor. If you've got questions, like I said, come to the booth. We have a couple minutes now, but otherwise enjoy your day and hopefully this was helpful.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.